Hello friends, and welcome to season 24 of the recap videos, of course, of Building a Nation with Treaty United, the stream save, which of course you can catch live over on Twitch, Tuesdays, Thursdays, and of course on Saturdays, not this week though, but I'm actually live right now, of course, doing the transfer window, which is why, of course, we do these videos. But now, it's time to catch you up on what's been going on. Of course, if you do enjoy these, drop a like, that would be fantastic, and if you want to catch all of the full VODs, they are over on the second channel, linked in the description, to all the fun that we have over there. Jumping straight in this time, youth intake. Yeah, I mean, you've kind of got used to the start of each video, me being going, well, the youth intake was crap. And this year, well, it's not really much different. Although I must admit, Adam Mooney was our best player. He was the only player that was worth signing from this year's youth intake. We've tried everything. It's just not happening for us. I think we've had one good youth player in probably 50, well, the entire save, honestly. And that was Chris McLean, who is actually now the Irish national team captain. So there is that, I suppose. If only we'd kept him. Hey, that was totally on me. But yeah, Adam Mooney was the man, but there's not really much more to say about it. He just was not spectacularly good on that point. But now, what you're actually looking for is, what do we do with the ins? What do we do with the outs? I need to talk about the loan farm this year, because it's popping the hell off. So the first big out was Fidel Martinez, £7.25 million to Lazio. Basically, his contract was going to be up relatively soon, and we thought we would cash in while we could, because I just didn't think there was really much of a future here for him, because he was just behind too many people, and there were some youngsters coming through that were better and had higher potential, so we felt it was the right time. He was slightly injury prone, as you can already see, he's injured at Lazio, but for £7 million, we thought it was a good bit of business just to get some money off the bill that we can then reinvest into the squad. Not like we're short of money at the moment, though. We also sold Fidel Faye to Liverpool for £4.2 million. Now, the reason for this deal was quite a simple one. He would no longer go back out on loan to Bohemian, despite being there for ages. His contract wasn't actually coming to an end or anything, he just was desperate to play for someone better than Bose, which kind of sucks. So eventually Liverpool came in, and we decided to sell him to them for 4.25 with a 50% of next fee. And what you'll notice there is that our boy here is joining Celta Vigo. Now, obviously, this is a slightly earlier version of the save, so we still get all the stats, but he obviously has joined Celta Vigo, and it's the fee that's kind of fascinating. £17.5 million. At no point have Liverpool ever offered to buy that clause off of us. So this could end up getting us in total of around about 9 million quid just out of this one deal, and in total it could rise to 13 million. Absolute stonks. Vladimir Danko also left to join Lyon for, I think it was only around £4.3 million, honestly. Again, we were just trying to clear out some of the guys that were not quite getting the game time they used to be in this team to make way for some of the youngsters that were coming through that in theory could get bigger and better than these guys. Although Danko has been a fantastic servant to the club. He's been here 8 years and has been excellent, considering we paid 800 grand for him and stole him out from under the nose of some really excellent teams. You'll notice that there are a few of the sort of more established figures leaving the club, sadly, over the course of this season to make way for things bright and new, and Danko is one of those players. The other and bigger of those particular scenarios was Palanac Mate, who's left to join Celta Vigo. Ironically, he's been reunited with Fidel Faye for £13 million. Again, we love Palanac. He's been here for such a long time. Again, 10 years a servant to the club. Really good deal. Obviously, he's worth loads of money in Spain because he just is. Unfortunately, our player values have dropped by 75% again for literally no reason. So that's always really good. This was, I think, prior to that, but of course, his contract again was coming to an end. So we thought it was the right time to cash in and move on Palanac Mate to allow some space for some of the youngsters to come through, the likes of Neslo and some other players who are definitely going to be fantastic for us, including Johan Hulvoet, who actually won't go back out on loan to Derry City and will stay in our first team this season, and hopefully he can be an absolute monster because he's developed really nicely out on loan and he refused to go back, so he's just going straight to our first team, kind of like what Palanac Mate did actually during his one spell at Shamrock Rovers. I also sold Nesh Piszek to Manchester City, another one of those signings that you see me do every couple of windows, where we sign a guy relatively cheap, sell him to someone like Manchester City or Arsenal or someone, get the huge squad value bump, and then just get that 50% clause on the end, which is exactly what we've done. £7.5 million for him to go to City. Hopefully we can probably make at least that back again on top of that, taking the total to around about 15 million. So we're just continuing to boost our money, which is just useful because I feel like in the course of this next window, we might actually be signing some quite big players potentially from other sides, and there might even be established names. So that's what I'm looking forward to trying to see. And the last big out was Sir Luban Mihov. At 38 years old, I finally decided, you know what, you've been a fantastic servant to this club, but he was just starting to make little mistakes more and more often, and I thought, you know what, if he wants to go to Inter, it was only 875 grand, but one last big payday for Sir Luban. He's, you know, this is a big chance for him to play some massive European football, play in Serie A, so I couldn't really begrudge him that, and it was a chance to allow Dudas Mikulic to come in and be our starting keeper for the next few seasons and see how he does, particularly as we've got some other guys coming through like Pereira and Swanetsky as well, so I wanted to give those guys a chance to play a little bit more, and to move on Luban was a sad moment for us because of course he was a team leader, as was Palanac Mate, so we have had to sort of reshuffle the squad in terms of the leaders, and that's taken a little while, but I think we're getting there. So that was the big final out. Weirdly, ins have not been quite so abundant abundant this season, really. But the first of those was Patrick Voznitzka, who's on loan at Cork City at the moment. We paid £5.75 million for him from Schalke. He's a central midfielder. I think this guy has got extraordinary potential. He's still at 5 stars. He's got great value. He's been on loan at Cork City this season, 27 games for them from central midfield. You notice a lot of the players I'm going to show you have actually got loans. More on that in a second. I think he's a really excellent young talent, still only 18. He will be an Irish homegrown talent as well. I really like him. And someone that's maybe slightly less good was Sigurd Nelling. He came in from, from Odds for £74,000. He's out on loan at Bray Wanderers this season, has banged 12 goals for them in the second division. So the absolute perfection of these types of signings. You bring them in, get them on loan to the other sides. He's even willing to go and play in the second tier, and I just love being able to do that. We signed him because, well, you can see he's got some okay tent poles, honestly, but yeah, 70 grand, can't really complain. Next up is one I'm really pleased with. This is Shores van Wijnen, £600,000 from Vitesse over in the Netherlands. We've actually got a guy called Van Wijnen and a guy called Van Bijnen, which is fantastic. He didn't manage to get a loan quite yet, though, as he only just turned 17. Hopefully I can get him out on loan in the next window. But again, for £600,000, I think he's a really excellent talent player, and he may not be ever quite good enough for us, but I still think he's the type of guy that could do a phenomenal job at someone like Bose or Derry City for like a decade. So really happy with him. Next up was Aaron Dudas. This is a strange one because Dudas was a Hungarian youth team international that had never had a club before, and we thought we'd take a little punt on him, and he's actually developed quite nicely. Now, what I can tell you is he has found himself a loan for next season. He just hasn't got it yet, which is really, really awesome. I think it's Cork City. Another one, £600,000 for David Matarov, a right wing-back from FK Partizan. He's been out on loan at Waterford this season, has played 9 games for them in the top flight, as they've had a bit of a struggle bus of a season, but still, he's got some game time. He may go back there next season, he may not, he may go to another side. Needless to say, another player that's had a loan, which is, you'll be noticing this a lot. Another cheap sort of beast is Florian Oltiano. We paid a bit more than I would have liked for him. It was about £400,000, and he actually hasn't really met those requirements yet. But again, he's one of these guys that was joining us so young that he couldn't actually go out on loan yet. I suspect we'll find him a loan for next season. Just some sort of fodder for the lower league sides, really. So that was Jose Lara for £230,000. I have been trying to get him a loan, and I suspect that I will, but his value at least is a lot higher than some of the others, and I think he's a really good player as well. And for 230k, you could hardly complain. Now, you'll notice a lot of these guys are quite cheap. Now, remember, we did obviously spend nearly 20 million on Hamza Saki, the guy that I showed you last time. And in fact, I'll just show him again in a minute just to make sure that you got just how good that guy is. We also spent £525,000 on Luis Jose Rodriguez from Getafe. I mean, look at the value on him. He's come in and been fantastic. Really want to get this guy alone. But again, some of these guys would have only just turned 17, so they wouldn't have been eligible during the main window. But hopefully he'll get one for next season. But it looks like a really capable young striker. Very excited to see what he could become. And look at that value. Finally, another player from FCSB, which is Moise Vlad Paul, who's also gone out on loan to Waterford. So yeah, another solid player. £800,000. He did cost us a bit more than I would have liked to pay, but I just really liked his attributes more than his potential or anything. Other players that joined us right at the very start of the season, Kevin Mimich was for £700,000 from Dinamo Zagreb, a solid option. I have now found him a loan as well. Of course, there was Hamza Saki, who joined us for 17 million, but obviously that could rise as high as 24 if the right clauses are made. But he is just growing, and he looks fantastic. I just think he's going to be an absolute star centre-back one day. 7 under 20 caps for Morocco as well. It won't be long before he gets his first team call-up. I can almost guarantee it. And he's developing nicely. He's not going to be loaned out. He's actually been playing. He's played a few matches for us this season, 3 in the league as well. He will get more game time for us in the coming seasons. The reason I wanted to get rid of some of those other guys was to make room for people like Saki. There's Cyril Soroba, another player that went on loan to Waterford. They took a lot of loans for us this season. He was like 60 grand, so not a hugely expensive deal. Speaking of 60 grand, Junior Basilio was another one that cost us about £60,000 to bring him in from Universitario de Portage. Didn't manage to get him a loan. Hopefully we will. There's Bartłomiej Słonecki as well, who came in from Zagłębie over in Poland. Really interesting young goalkeeper, this guy. Cost us, I think, £300,000. And look at the value on him. I think he could actually be a star one day, potentially. He was worth a lot more money at one point, but his contract was running down. We were just able to pinch him out from under the nose of them. And I really do like. He's our backup at the moment, but I feel like he could go full-time very soon. Then there was another goalkeeper, in fact, Diego Concertsal, who came in for, I believe it was £800,000 from Paços de Ferreira, out on loan at St. Pat's as well. Really good reflexes, really good. So just a generally good young goalkeeper as well. And it's just really nice to see these guys get some good quality goalkeepers. And we've got some real talent coming through our own ranks in terms of goalkeepers. So happy with that. And here is the aforementioned Vitesse van Bijnen. He is actually 5-star rated when you go to other menus. And I still think he's a really, really talented young midfielder. But for, what was it, £800,000 from young PSV? Absolute stud. We've signed a few of these guys from Dutch sides when we got them really young. And they've turned out to be absolutely monsters, like Bilbia and people like that. He's just so many of these types of players knocking about. He's great. I really like him. And lastly was Jonas Beck for £450,000. Went to St. Pat's on loan this season. Has done a solid job. 2 goals, 26 appearances for them. You love to see it. Just simple signings like this has really helped us. So speaking of that, let's just look at the loan farm briefly. You'll notice now that we have 82 players out on loan. We found something, and we found a way of managing to get our players to go out on loan a little bit more. and it's worked an absolute treat. Now, you know that I'm going to probably have to make a separate video about this at some point. So if you do want to see a separate video about how we've managed the loan farm and how we've managed to take it from like 40 players every single season to 82 in the space of 1 year, then do let me know and I'll make a separate video going into a bit more detail. But essentially, obviously dev list, offering players out, but more important than that, we found that clubs aren't always interested in your players every single day. Sometimes it will go from day to day, and if you can keep an eye on which players have got wanted symbols every other day, you'll notice that you can suddenly get a lot more loans out. Also, one thing I've noticed as well is that offering players out to other clubs, even if you get loads of emails that say clubs decline to offer, if you look in 2 days, all of a sudden, most of those players will have wanted symbols from those exact same clubs that just turned them down. I don't know why, but it's very, very interesting. But again, if you want to see a proper video about that, do let me know and I'll happily make one in the next couple of weeks, because that's what's allowed us to go from 49 guys out on loan to 82, and I suspect it will only keep going up. And obviously the league this season was pretty much a foregone conclusion, as you would imagine. We still didn't get that invincible season with no losses, or sorry, no draws or anything. We've got 34 wins, 2 draws, 104 points. Not our best season. We've had a couple of 35 1-0s in there too, but that's just how things go with these things. You'll notice as well that we've got 6 European places. More on that in a second. But yeah, it's good news. Dundalk, of course, second best this season. Sligo did actually sneak into the 3rd Champions League spot. Yeah, that's nice to see as well. Derry City, of course, get to be our new boys, basically, because we've had the established Big Five for a little while now. But the great thing about Derry City is that they haven't been in Europe. Well, they have in the past, but not this season. But they managed to establish themselves as a team that can actually hang with the other Big Five sides, for the most part anyway. At one point they were actually as high as 3rd in the league, but the point is that they're not getting cut adrift like the rest of them, and that means that they're going to be the perfect side to join the ranks of the European contingent in this save. Now the issue is going to be who would become that 7th side should we get a 7th European spot. I suspect it would be St. Pat's, but they've got a lot of work to do before they can really be competitive as that 7th place side and actually be able to do anything for us in Europe, whereas Derry City are pretty much perfectly poised to be able to actually make an impact on a European stage. You can see that out of Ujo with 26 goals this season, Valev with 20, Mikolic was brilliant for Dundalk as well with 17 assists. Thijs getting 16. Valev with 13 assists on top of his already outrageous season. Both of those guys had absolutely spectacular years. Thijs was still massively up there. Nothing like the 76 contributions he got last year when he won the Ballon d'Or, which he did, which was amazing. But nevertheless, he's a spectacular player. He was still 46th on the goal 50 list. Won the Ballon d'Or. 46th. I don't know. Weird. But all in all, it's going quite nicely. And to give you a little bit of an idea about some of the other clubs, most of them don't spend a lot of money, which is why I tend not to focus on their transfers. However, Dundalk bought a player from Shamrock for £7 million, which as far as I know is a record for Irish football, i.e. from buying from one club to another. And it was this guy, Richard Akakpo Bukari, who ironically we signed for free from Unisport, then gave to Shamrock Rovers, and then they've gone round in like the space of literally a season, flipped him for £7 million to Dundalk for the Togolese international, who's still only 24 years old. But yeah, Dundalk are dropping £7 million on players now, and that should give you an idea of how much Ireland has really developed. And I think Dundalk's Champions League run last year really helped them just get all that extra cash going. And speaking of that, let's take a little bit of a look at the way Europe has gone, because I suspect that's where your brain is really heading right now. So of course, as a result of winning our group last year, we got drawn against Bayern. We managed to go to Germany and beat them by 3 goals to 2. Victor Bermanetz, who of course as a player actually tried to sign from them at the end of this season, he ended up going to Chelsea. Imagine that, Chelsea signing an overpowered striker. But there you go. We did manage to get a 3-2 victory in Germany with Valev, Ujo, and of course captain Mihai Alaku grabbing the goals. In the second leg, it was a relatively straightforward affair. Took us a little bit while to get going, but in the second half, Alexander Lindberg grabbed us the winning goal essentially, and then Petter Christensen off the bench added 2 late on to take our total to a 6-2 victory on aggregate over Bayern Munich, and we went through to the quarterfinals to face a Barcelona, a team that have not been up to scratch in this save, so a team I felt that we could comfortably get past. However, the first leg was a 0-0, a massive letdown. I don't know how Barcelona were not able to concede a goal in this game. They barely did anything in this match, and we should have won this by at least 2 goals. And it's just one of those games where we just couldn't take chances. We hit the woodwork twice in this game, but it was actually more than that. It just doesn't always count them. We managed to work out that in the end, over the course of Europe in the last few seasons, we've been hitting the woodwork. 14% of our shots have hit the woodwork. But to give you an idea, the Premier League average is like between 2 and 3%. It's utterly insane. And then, of course, in the second leg, Barcelona beat us 1-0 with a goal from Paulo in the 69th minute. A thoroughly even game, which maybe you could argue they slightly edged. But in this tie, there's no way that we should have got 2 games against Barcelona, creating like, 3.7, 3.8 XG and not score a single goal. Utterly unacceptable. And it was a horrible way to go out of Europe with some of the chances we had. Yeah, we hit the woodwork 4 times in this game as well. So 6 woodwork hits, plus actually a few more, over these 2 matches really, really cost us. It was insane. But of course, that meant we were out of Europe and just feeling incredibly down on ourselves at that point, because I just feel like we could have been so much better. But what about the other Irish teams? Well, you know Dundalk got drawn against Liverpool. Well, they actually only went out by 4 goals to 3. Incredibly, they took a draw with Liverpool at their home stadium, and then went to Anfield and led in 2 different occasions in that match. They were actually in front at Anfield. In the end, there was a red card for Vukotic that unfortunately seemed to condemn them, but to only go out 4-3 on aggregate to Liverpool is insanely good from Dundalk. As for the Conference League, Sligo did manage to get past Lokomotiv Moscow, and they have sort of rebuilt their entire club now after that hilarious shenanigans of a few seasons ago, but they did qualify then for the second round, where unfortunately they were comfortably put to the sword 5-1 by Villarreal, losing 2-0 and 3-1 over the 2 games. It wasn't really, we couldn't really have expected that much more from them. They're still not quite what they used to be, but they are getting there. They've definitely taken a lot more loans since, and they're really rebuilding their team, so I think they'll be a real force over the coming seasons, but it's taken them a few seasons to recover from their admin idiocy. But that, of course, meant that was all the Irish sides out of Europe at that point. So not the most successful season for Ireland in terms of general success and coefficient. We obviously only had 4 sides in the groups, which didn't help because we were absent Derry City, as of course they did not make it through. But now onto this season, and of course we got ourselves a relatively good group. As a result of us, actually this previous season you would have just seen, we did make it up to 5th in the coefficient charts. We lost out to Scotland by 0.090 points. That's how close we were to getting 4th, jumping from 7th to 4th. But we went to 5th, which meant, of course, that we were a pot 1 side this year, so we didn't have to worry about any silliness. And as a result, in our group, we managed to get Liverpool, Shakhtar, and Red Bull Salzburg. And it was a group that we would actually eventually go on to win, scoring 22 goals over the 6 matches. It was a very weird start. We lost at home to Liverpool with their only chance of the match, Fiderovic's penalty. We were not getting the luck of the green in Europe. But then luckily, in the next match day, it all turned around for us as Liverpool drew at home to Shakhtar, and we put 9 goals past Red Bull Salzburg away from home. We were 7-1 up at half-time in this match, got a red card in the second half, and still scored 2 more goals after that. We were actually losing after 12 minutes in this game, and then put 9 goals past Red Bull Salzburg. Utterly outrageous. They were the pot 3 side. And then it was kind of smooth sailing-ish from there, but we took another 2-2 draw this time against Shakhtar. Luckily, it's really turned around, was getting a 4-1 victory in Ukraine, or wherever the game was played. Then a 2-1 victory at Anfield with Thijs Vries and Petter Christensen really doing the business. And of course, on the final day, putting 5 more goals past Red Bull Salzburg, and Liverpool's dropping points against Shakhtar. It wouldn't have mattered at that point, because as a result of winning at Anfield, we had the head-to-head advantage on Liverpool, and even if they'd won, it wouldn't have mattered. So we did manage to win our Champions League group. And do you know who we got as a reward for winning our Champions League group? Oh, you're going to love this. PSG. We got PSG. That was our reward. We could have had Valencia and Rangers, but no, we got PSG. We just cannot catch a good draw in Europe at the moment. So yeah, look forward to that one. They came second in their group to Man City narrowly. Ah, dear. But what about the other Irish sides, you might ask? Well, I'll just tell you for now, we did get all 5 of them into the group stages this season of various tournaments, which is very, very nice indeed. Dundalk, unfortunately, again, were in the Champions League groups, which is a bit of a shame. Because despite getting probably an easier group than they got last time around, they absolutely mucked it up. Just royally mucked it. They couldn't beat Young Boys in either of the 2 matches they played against them, and that was the big thing. And that final day, all they needed to do was was to beat Young Boys. If they could have gone there and won, they'd have got 3rd spot. So Dundalk out of Europe entirely after only getting 3 points in their Champions League group. It's a real shame. This is why it's nice to have them playing in the Europa Conference League and the Europa League a little bit more often, but that's not going to happen in future because, of course, as of next season, we're going to get 2 guaranteed group stage spots in the Champions League and 1 other for the playoff round, which will no doubt drop down. I don't think Sligo are quite ready for this yet, but if things carry on as they are, we could have 4 sides guaranteed here, and that could be quite bad for us for a couple of seasons, I suspect. Of course we're through, Dundalk are out, but what about the others? In the Europa League, Bows were handed a fairly tough group, honestly. Like with Spurs and Gladbach in there, I felt they were always going to struggle, but they did manage to pick up 2 victories in the group, both of which were against Dinamo Zagreb. They got themselves a cheeky draw away in Germany against Gladbach, and that was enough to see them get, a good 7-point haul, but also qualify for the knockouts of the Europa Conference League, which is something we're really excited about, and having Irish sides in there doing well is really what keeps Ireland plodding along in Europe at the moment. So having them qualify was good, so that's 2 out of 3 so far. And the Conference League was an absolute dreamboat. Shamrock got Red Star Sarajevo and Villaznia of Albania in their group. They managed to win 5 out of their 6 matches. Ironically, the only game they lost was against bottom of the league, Villaznia, in their away from home, but they had already qualified as group winners at that point, so I guess they weren't too bothered. But 15 points out of a possible 18, really good haul for Shamrock Rovers. Of course, they go through as group winners, so they'll get to skip around as well. As for Sligo, they did actually manage to get through. I'll just move my face cam over to the other side here. They had a group with St. Gallen's, obviously Sligo themselves, Lokomotiv Moscow, who I believe were actually dumped out by Sligo last season in Europe, and then Farrell Costanza, team we always take all our youth players from. It was them and St. Gallen pretty much all the way with 4 wins each. I believe both of Sligo's defeats, though, were to St. Gallen. So not ideal there, but they did still manage to get 2nd spot and have now qualified for the knockouts. knockouts. So we've got 4 out of 5 sides in the knockouts, us in the Champions League, and 3 different teams in the Europa Conference League knockouts. I think there's a real chance that we could have some real depth going with Ireland in Europe this year, and it's awesome. Unfortunately, technically, as of this point, the draw hasn't actually happened, and I've forgotten who the teams have got. So I do apologise for that, but I think they were relatively winnable ties, and I think we've got a real chance of seeing them going quite a lot deeper into Europe this season, and a real exciting opportunity for maybe one of them to go to another European final, and maybe even get a chance to play against each other in the latter stages, which would be lovely. Now, of course, at the end of last season, we did move ourselves up to 5th. You can see what I mean here, 68.190 to 68.1. A single draw at any point in Europe last season would have seen us get 4th last year. However, I think we've actually dodged a bullet. Getting to stagger ourselves from 7th to 5th to 4th, hopefully, is going to do us the world of good, because it means that we can actually have more time to build up a team like St. Pat's, whereas this time around, we've managed to work on getting Derry City being a bit better. I think they're now ready to be our 6th European side. St. Pat's are going to take at least another season to sort that, so hopefully next year, if we can prioritise loans to them, knowing that they'll probably get that 7th place, unless Longford do anything mad. Bear in mind, Longford have been promoted again from the second tier, so they're back up with their tycoon money. Maybe they'll do a better job of it this time. Seems unlikely, though. Cabinteely set the worst defence and goal difference of all time. But that will put us in a better spot, especially as things stand, we would actually be going 3rd. We have had an outrageous season. 12.3 points already after the end of the group stages. That's probably the most we've ever had at this stage. I think we're well on for potentially our best ever season in Europe. Provided we get past PSG, and hopefully we see some good stuff from our other sides. I think there's a real chance that we could be going to close to 16 points this season in Europe, which would be utterly brilliant, and will give us a real chance at not only getting past Scotland, which looks absolutely a done deal because they've not been amazing this year, but also overtaking Italy as well and sneaking straight into 3rd spot, which would be level with the best ever result we got last year with Norway, and we would have already caught them up, which is pretty damn important considering that took us, 23 years with Norway. We've done it in 24 with Ireland, who start in 42nd spot. So not too bad. And it also means that we then have our sights on Spain. And if we can keep stringing together better and better seasons, although it will take a bit of a hit when the new teams come in, I think there's a chance that we could actually get 2nd this time around. England is still going to be a massive mission, and I do still think it's possible, but I think Spain is very much possible in this save if we can get the right stuff together with the other Irish sides and keep them loaning players. The loan system's working way better this time than last time around. There's a lot of stuff to think about for the future. Of course, transfer budget wise, we have £135 million, 675, basically just moon money. We can sign who we want because our finances at the moment with 200 million in the bank, we're being very, very frugal with money because we just keep signing players and selling them on for so much money that doesn't affect our other situations. It's absolutely fantastic fun. Now, a quick little check at the actual squad. You can see this season's top scorer, of course, Araujo with 42. Valev managed to get 32. But he only just overscored his XG. Christensen looked really good. 27 goals this year for Christie, over only starting 17 matches. I think he's a real talent for the future. Thiesfries did still manage to get himself 46 goal contributions. He's certainly not done yet by any means. He's a quality player. Bilbia as well, knocking up 14 goals this year too, playing as a backup too. It's really exciting times. And I'm very excited to see what this team is capable of. Hopefully we'll get ourselves another revenue, like a bump in player value again, because that kind of sucks that didn't happen. So of course, join me over on stream right now. The word that you want to put in chat is Actimel. Dump it in the comments too. It helps out the algorithm. You have no idea. Honestly, you writing Actimel in the comments of this video seriously does help out. Sounds stupid, but that's just how it goes. So I'll see you guys very, very soon. Like if you enjoyed. Subscribe if you're new. Hold your gun. Capybara. Bye-bye.